Hi, everyone. Thanks for being with me. It's the Plant-Based Business Hour, and I'm Elizabeth Alfano. The Plant-Based Business Hour airs every Tuesday and Thursday live at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, if you miss any of those times, you can always just grab the Plant-Based Business Hour podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. There's been a slight change in the schedule today, so I want to bring back one of my favorite interviews from April of this year, and already so much has changed. It's been a tumultuous year, as we know. From April of this year, I want to give you my interview with Christie Lagally. She's the CEO and founder of Rebellious Foods. And single-handedly, she is changing the future for chickens globally around the world. Not only has she made a delicious chicken nugget, but this engineer, this mechanical engineer, has also made all of the machinery necessary so that she and other companies can scale this product up, keep the price down, and go head to head, not just in taste, but also in price and scale with actual chicken manufacturing. And as we know, price parity is really the game changer. I will not delay. With the magic of technology, I'm going to bring you live my interview with Christie Lagally from April of this year. I think this will work. You hadn't really thought about consumer packaged goods. And as you say, everything has gone on high speed because of COVID-19. But tell me a little bit first about more the cafeteria market. Why have you decided to go with nuggets and not, let's say, chicken fillets or chicken breasts or things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people don't realize that more than half of the U.S. chicken market is what is called further processed chicken. In fact, about 52% of the U.S. chicken market is further processed chicken, which makes up chicken nuggets, patties, and strips, essentially, or tenders. Some people call them tenders, and we do too. And as a result, what we wanted to do was make sure that at Rebellious Foods, we were going after the products that people truly want. You know, they say in the Y Combinator program that we went through last year down in Silicon Valley as a launch accelerator that we went through, that we want to make something that people want. And the truth of the matter is, for better or for worse, chicken products that are made into nuggets, patties, or tenders sell really, really well for a wide variety of reasons. One, they're very convenient. They taste great. They're easy for food service establishments to cook up quickly, and that's the same thing of why they're popular at home. So we decided to go after that particular form of chicken product because we really believed that until we got the price of those products, we weren't going to be able to tackle, you know, as a plant-based food industry, we really weren't going to be able to tackle that particular sector of the market, which makes up not only the largest segment of the chicken market, but chicken is the largest sector of the meat industry, you know, counting for almost 50% of the U.S. meat industry. And as a result, we're going after the largest segment of the largest segment of the food meat industry.
And I wonder if part of the reason why it is the largest part of the meat industry is because it's breaded and fried, and so it has easy access to kids as well as adults.
It does, and there are other reasons as well. You know, we tend to, you know, have to eat on the fly a lot. You don't always have silverware or something with you. It's also just, you know, kind of convenient and kind of it's certainly tasty to bread, batter, and fry things. So I don't know if there's anything you could really bread, batter, and fry that wouldn't taste good. But the truth of the matter is, these are low cost, high volume produced products that are really affordable for people. And the fact that they are in this particular form also allows it to be very transportable, not only for you to like take it with you and eat it in a half an hour, but also on the front side of that supply chain, where if I'm making a product that maybe is still made out of chicken, and then I'm sending it out to food service professionals or cafeterias, they can keep it frozen and it's in good quality until they absolutely need it. So it's a really good product for food service companies and cafeterias and hospitals and schools to use, because they can use it when they need it and they can serve it. It's kind of, you know, ready to be there when you need it. So it's got a lot of good, you know, from an engineer's perspective, a lot of good design aspects. The fact that it's made out of chicken is really the only problem.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about the engineering, because you yourself are an engineer. So it stands to reason that you would come to this from that perspective. So, you know, you're talking about food service and cafeterias, but of course you must be entering the fast food market, I would think. What is your relationship with fast food chains?
Well, you know, we work actually behind the scenes with a number of fast food companies and are co-developing products with fast food companies. I can't share their names, but we're very excited to be offering products that will truly meet their menu needs. You know, when you come up with a new food product, it's not just about kind of making it the right size or shape. It's also about, you know, the flavor and, you know, and matching the menu of that particular restaurant. And so we work really hard as a company that is willing to partner behind the scenes. We don't need all the credit in order to make it possible for fast food companies to truly offer a healthier, more planet-friendly, and more pandemic-avoidable product. And as a result, we're really proud of our work behind the scenes on that particular issue. And those particular customers.
Yes, and I love to see that you're helping, you know, these fast food places, because they do reach millions of people. And for the folks who are going to be on the chat and saying like, oh gosh, it's not healthy, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how it is healthier than its chicken fried and breaded counterpart, and that we're trying to meet people where they are. We're not trying to reinvent every single solitary wheel. We're trying to go step by step and getting, you know, from chicken to plant-based chicken. That is a huge step already in health, and then you kind of move from there. So I'm so appreciative of what you do. So let's talk a little bit about consumer packaged goods. When I do think of chicken nuggets in particular, I sort of think of like classic Americana. There's the grilled cheese sandwich, and then there's chicken nuggets. So when are we going to be able to find you in stores around the country?
Well, I can't give you too many details at this point, but I'd be happy to share in a few weeks. But it'll probably be about 2 to 3 weeks when you'll be able to start finding us in the Seattle area and potentially in neighboring cities and states. So as a company that had to pivot almost overnight, and being that Seattle was ground zero for the U.S. version of the pandemic for coronavirus, we saw the writing on the wall and quickly pivoted our efforts. Our team of just 11, 12 people at the time quickly pivoted and worked diligently day and night to try to reformulate a little bit of our product so that we could sell it to customers. It's a slightly different product when you sell from food service versus sell directly to the public, but we made a few tweaks and made sure that we could get it in a nice package, and in a few weeks we'll have a pretty great announcement for you.
Oh, I can't wait. And I really do hope, and of course, we'll take it step by step, but I can't wait to see it expand from Seattle, which, as you say, has been hit so hard. So they deserve a little extra props. So I'm glad that they're getting plant-based chicken first. But then as it grows from Seattle to the rest of the country, I just cannot wait. And I'd love to have you back on this show or my sister podcast, the Awesome Vegans podcast, to do some taste testing here in Los Angeles or in Chicago or in both places, because I'd love to get the word out that they can now get. Is it going to be called Rebellious Foods? Is it going to be under the same label?
It'll be under the Rebellious Foods name. Absolutely.
Okay. And I love that because you are associated with the Rebellious Foods name, and it's kind of you to say that you can be behind the scenes with these fast food restaurants and you don't mind, but really you yourself are a powerhouse as a female entrepreneur, as a mechanical engineer, as someone who's decided to put all their talents into plant-based items and plant-based engineering and plant-based foods, and therefore really changing the world. So you are no wallflower, and it's wonderful to have you on this show. All right, so health, people, health. Let's talk about it. In the movie What the Health, I was astounded to find out that chicken is actually filled with salt water to keep, because the processed chickens in factory farms are often dehydrated and et cetera, and just giving people that sort of taste they want. That chicken is plumped up with salt water and therefore one of the saltiest foods people eat. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about chicken and what people might not realize about factory farmed chicken, and then how Rebellious chicken compares.
Yeah, the fact that we have a lot of diverse customers for the Rebellious Foods products really speaks to the diversity of the issues around chicken. One of them can be high sodium for processed chicken products. Another one is antibiotic use. Despite the movement towards antibiotic-free chicken, still more than 90% of all chicken in the United States is grown with antibiotics, and that's a huge health risk. I mean, if we're talking about pandemics today, but the other side of that health risk is also antibiotic resistant bacteria and being exposed to it, inadvertently being close to chicken farms or other sources of getting exposed to bacteria that are antibiotic resistant, in addition to the risks, of course, of a virus emerging from factory farming of animals. So that's another really big issue. Cholesterol is another really big issue. Chicken is one of the highest foods with cholesterol, or cholesterol is in the highest in chicken. And as a result, people who are having issues with heart disease, diabetes, all want to watch their cholesterol. And granted, plant-based meat doesn't have to have any of cholesterol because it's cholesterol free. Also, saturated fat is another thing that we can really control for when we make plant-based chicken products, even though they're processed. We're not going to deny that these are processed products. Of course they are. We're replacing a processed product. If you're trying to eat less processed foods, then eat apples and oranges and carrots. But we know that most Americans aren't necessarily going to swap out carrots for their chicken nuggets. And so we're trying to make a solution that can truly fit within their lifestyle if they're not able to change their lifestyle. And for those of us like me who enjoy processed chicken products, that, having the plant-based alternative means that I don't need to eat it every day, but I can definitely enjoy it just like someone else who would normally eat a chicken product. So, saturated fat, sodium, we actually can offer products with less sodium as well. That's something totally within our realm. But considerably lower saturated fat, no cholesterol, no antibiotics, and, no animal proteins for those people who are sensitive to foreign proteins. I have a lot of members of my own family who have autoimmune diseases, and we know more and more about how animal protein itself can attack the body, or the body attacks it. And so plant-based proteins are, another solution to essentially kind of exposing our bodies to, foreign proteins that we wouldn't normally want to do. It doesn't affect a whole lot of us, but it can. But the big chronic diseases, are affected by saturated fat, sodium, cholesterol, and of course, antibiotic resistance are huge concerns. So, I do obviously believe very much in eating a whole foods plant-based diet. But for the vast majority of us, we're not going to necessarily do that 100% of the time. And we want to make sure the alternatives are truly there for people to make better decisions.
So I love that you say this. I'm going to riff on it a little bit. So when I had the chief cardiologist at Rush Medical Center in Chicago, Rush Medical Hospital, and he's the past president of the American College of Cardiology, Dr. Kim Williams, he was saying that for meat, and that is going to include chicken, so don't be thinking that, oh my gosh, it's not beef, so therefore it's healthy, including chicken. You have obviously the antibiotic and the hormone, this pushed growth, because these chickens don't get to live out their normal life. They're pushed with hormones to make them grow abnormally fast and abnormally large. But you also have TMAO, trimethylene N-oxide, which is only found in animal products, and it's not good for humans. You also have animal heme, which is only found in animal products, not good for humans. And then, of course, you have cholesterol and you have saturated fat. So, yes, this is not a carrot. And Rebellious chicken is not a head of lettuce. I think people can see that kind of right off the bat. You are going to be in a package in a store. So that already knows that, no one is picking it with their bare hands in your backyard. That said, it is light years healthier. It is a huge step healthier than regular chicken. And then we aren't even talking about the environmental benefits of producing plant-based foods and the pandemic benefits of producing plant-based foods, and then the animal welfare issues. So there's so many reasons that this is a right step in the right direction for all of us, the planet, people, and animals. I read somewhere, and now it's going to be a while ago because who the heck is talking about anything except COVID right now, but a while ago I read that 2020 was the year of vegan chicken. What do you think?
Well, I read that a while back too, and I thought, well, we've been working on vegan chicken for years. And I'm sure Morningstar was even more confused by that. They've been working on it since like 1970. So, I think it's definitely a year that we need to tackle chicken, if no other reason that we are doing a really great job in the plant-based foods industry of tackling the other animals that we typically eat, like beef or cows and pigs and pork. Cows and pigs and turkeys and fish and seafood. But the truth of the matter is, all of those, all of the other land animals, pork and so pigs and cows and turkeys, all add up together to the size of the U.S. chicken industry. So of course we have to tackle chicken. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. In the United States, the U.S. meat industry produces over 105 billion pounds of animal-based meat. And yet the plant-based foods industry only produces about 1/5 of 1% of that volume. So not even 1% by volume. And that's a really important statistic because we're not making a whole lot of progress in terms of volume, which equates to impact. It equates to equality of access to products that are better for us. And so, one of the things that we do at Rebellious is we are focusing on the engineering behind the scenes to make sure that we can offer these products at low cost and high volume. And that's one of our major focus areas this year. So if it's the year of chicken, then it has to be the year for us to be able to do what we need to do in order to replace chicken, which is the production engineering work behind bringing the cost down and the volume up.
Okay, so Christie Lagally is changing the world. It really is as simple as that. I'm not overstating. I do want people to understand what you just said. I'm going to break it down for a little sound bite.
Sure.
Chicken is the largest portion of meat in the world, and if you don't attack its scale and its price, you really won't be making a dent. As you say, we are 1/20th, I think you said, of 1%. 1/5 of 1%. Plant-based foods are 1/5 of 1% in the US. So this is why when I go to your website, and I hope everyone else does as well, rebelliousfoods.com, REBELLY, your belly, rebelliousfoods.com, you only see one product. It's chicken. So I see a lot of plant-based foods are trying to do a sausage and a deli meat and a burger, and they're trying to get out there and have many products. And you have decided to do the opposite. Really tunnel vision chicken. And even in chicken, you're focused on a certain kind of chicken, tackling that largest portion of meat sales out there. So I really commend you for that. What about blended products? So I'm seeing companies like Purdue, and I believe it's Tyson, I might have that wrong, but Purdue for sure, that's putting out blended products. So part meat, part plant-based, part chicken, part plant-based, saying, okay, moms, this is your chance to give your kids their vegetables. What do you think about blended products?
Yeah, so I see blended products in the same way that we have been able to integrate alternative energy into our larger energy landscape. When it comes to alternative energy solutions back in the 1980s and early 90s, it was always seeming, please pardon me for that, it always seemed like, okay, if we were ever going to switch to wind energy or solar energy, it had to just be all or nothing. And that kind of all or nothing thinking was honestly held back the industry quite a bit. But we know today that a combination of alternative energies like wind, like turbine, like solar, like even, natural gas, even though I would hope people move away from natural gas, is a way of helping our society transition to better energy solutions. And the same is very much a roadmap for the plant-based meat industry. As instead of alternative energy, we've got alternative meat. And so having blended products really allows us to make that transition, to drive the road, and can coexist for now to make it possible to replace volumes of chicken products without necessarily having people say, oh, I'm just choosing the plant-based version. And yet we're still saving the lives of a lot of chickens. We're still reducing our environmental impact. It's a healthier product because it has less chicken in it. And so I really do think that the landscape of alternative to meat has to be very similar to that alternative energies. It has to include a lot of solutions because there are few incidences in our lives when we literally just turn off the tap to hard problems. And I don't think this is any different. And so I think it's a really good solution. And I think it's one of many solutions. Clean meat, cell lab grown meat is another really, not just promising, but good solution that will be part of our overall alternative meat landscape very soon.
I love that you say that because nothing in life is black and white, and rarely do any of us do something 100% and nothing at all. It's not 0 to 100. It's always some sort of blended solution. And I love that you point to natural energy as a roadmap for us, perhaps. I'll also add to that meat and dairy run on very small margins. So if you were to cut, in an ideal world, let's say half of the meat consumption, because only half of it is used in products now, I don't think meat and dairy could survive. I don't think you could take out half of their production and hope that their margins still work. Now, there might be government subsidies that come in and bail them out again, which which is another conversation. Feel free to comment on that if you have a comment on that. But if it were to be a truly capitalistic situation, I don't think meat and dairy could survive if their production went down 50%. So all blended products count, even if I personally don't want them. And I personally think like, oh, come on, Purdue, you can't step up and do a fully plant-based thing with the help of Rebellious Foods. Like, come on, like really, I mean, I think they don't look as progressive. I'm talking from a marketing standpoint. I don't think they look as progressive as they could. And I think it's a missed opportunity for them. Of course, they run their businesses as they see fit. But I think ultimately it is better than not.
Yeah, ultimately it is. And I think that one of the things that is not well understood by, I think, kind of the general market is what you just said is that, milk, dairy, eggs, beef, maybe less on beef, but certainly chicken. The chicken industry does live and die by very small margins, disturbingly small margins, sometimes negative margins. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really, it's a really important point when it comes to understanding how to replace chicken, because if you are competing in the plant-based world against products that are, at times have negative margin or have, 4 to 8% margins, or even, God forbid, even something like a 15% margin on products at grocery stores, the plant-based foods industry has to be, us as a production company have to be super efficient to make that a economic case for a company. And that I really want to focus on that, because one of the reasons we took on chicken was not just because of impact, but it was also because we had another solution to deploy. And that second solution to deploy is the engineering that we do behind the scenes. We call ourselves a production and a production technology company, because behind the scenes, what we're doing is we're developing better production equipment at our facility in West Seattle that allows us to process plant-based ingredients into plant-based chicken at or lower than the cost of chicken processing. Now, that in of itself, it takes some serious engineering. We're hiring multiple engineers right now. We already have a large technical staff that's been working on this for a couple of years. And as a result, we know that there needed to be a transition in the production technology necessary to make plant-based meat that came anywhere near as close to the price of chicken products. Because chicken prices are so low and they make so little margin, they can sometimes even go negative. And so as a result, we knew there had to be a transition in this, again, behind the scenes, in order to make plant-based meat faster, higher quality, and less expensive for our customers in order to compete with chicken one for one. And as that's of course what we do at Rebellious. That is our core existence, is to be able to implement that. And that is what's really exciting about the next year. Over the next year, we hope to finally get to prototype those new pieces of equipment and put them into practice, showing that plant-based meat can be, especially plant-based chicken, can be produced at or lower than the price of chicken.
So what you have said is so vital to anything being a true solution. It isn't just the food science. It is also the technology for making that food at a scale and a price and a pace that works. And when your competitor is subsidized and in addition working on small margins, you have no room for error. And the fact that you are providing two solutions here, so you're providing the plant-based chicken and you're providing, I don't know if you sell this technology to others, but potentially you do, you can answer that in a second. You're providing the solution to making the scale that is necessary to feed the world, basically, because of the amount of chicken that we consume. So I think sometimes plant-based folks think like, oh my gosh, Beyond Meat is out there, so why haven't we all gone vegan? Well, it's actually much bigger. First of all, you couldn't feed the world on Beyond Meat alone. You need much more than that, but you need to be able to produce at scale. And some of that factory technology isn't there to produce plant-based items at scale. And for that matter, and you can tell me in a second, Christie, not everybody has their own plants. So not everyone can actually manufacture what they'd like to manufacture. They have to rent out a contract manufacturer. And those middlemen are not so easy, middle people are not so easy to find either. So do you own, and I'm sorry if this is a repeat, do you own your own factory?
Yeah, we run and operate our own facility in West Seattle. We're an FDA registered food production facility. We're operating in the midst of COVID because we're an essential facility, but obviously taking extra precautions and managing social distancing even in our facility. But yeah, absolutely. We're very pleased to be owning and operating our own facility because, we could very well have, lost access to our production capabilities otherwise. It's such an uncertain time, and so we're really delighted that we can continue to keep up and running.
Yes, it really is an amazing feat because you're accomplishing quite a lot here, and in a way, almost chicken nuggets. Plant-based chicken nuggets are almost the secondary of the two. They're obviously not. Price, taste, and convenience, those are the things we all care about. So the fact that you're scaling up and the fact that you're doing it at a low cost and the fact that it tastes so good, I mean, you've hit everything. But then in addition, you've created the technology necessary for this to go full scale. It would be wonderful. Tell me if you feel like sharing how much chicken you produce, plant-based chicken you produce now.
Before COVID, we were ramping up to about 20,000 pounds a month, and we'd only been in our facility for like 2 months at that point.
Oh my gosh!
And so naturally, we had to divert some efforts, but we will be getting closer and closer up to those higher, tens of thousands of pounds a month eventually. But we've only been in that facility for a short period of time. But that being said, the goal of our facility isn't to, hit the highest volumes. The goal is to be able to do some production in our facility, some production with contract manufacturers, and then to use our facility as a living laboratory for implementing our new production equipment. And this is really, really key because as we at Rebellious are redesigning the way plant-based meat is manufactured and made in our facility, we are setting the blueprint for future facilities to be set up with much higher efficiency, much higher volume, better food safety, better quality products coming out of them. So our goal is to fundamentally replace the infrastructure of chicken processing with equipment that can do high volume, high quality, high throughput, and effective margin production of plant-based products. Because we not only feel like we're competing with plant-based, not just competing with products on the market, meaning that I'm selling to a consumer and they have a choice between a chicken-based product or a plant-based product. We're not just competing with that. We're also competing on the front end, which says, if you want to be making high volumes of plant-based meat, we have to be able to go and say to, Tyson or Purdue, hey, we have a solution that would allow you to, rip out some piece of equipment, put in our plant-based meat production equipment, and that facility will be able to make you 3 times as much money making plant-based meat than it would animal-based meat. And that in of itself is how we really start to move the needle on, going from 2% or 1/5 of 1% of the volume of meat in plant-based meat to 1%, to 2%, to 10%, even starting to approach 15 or 20%, which is now what the plant-based dairy industry is. So it's really, really important that our engineering efforts are not only obviously developed in our West Seattle facility and put into production so we can prove out how it makes better and lower cost and lower energy and lower water plant-based meat products, but also higher quality and juicy products. But also that in, just a few years, we're going to be able to deploy that equipment into new facilities that will be able to make plant-based meat at volumes that, the industry has never seen before.
Did I mention that Christie Lagally is changing the world? In no small statement am I saying this. You're taking on the biggest meat production, which is chicken and breaded and fried chicken at that. And then on top of it, you're giving the meat industry the technology necessary to change their production. And I don't think everyone listening perhaps realizes, as we were saying before, it's more than just the food science and coming up with that great tasting product. It's now, how do you get the big meat companies, which have the strong distribution channels, which have the relationships with grocery stores, which have the deep marketing pockets, how do you get them to switch over their facilities to make plant-based foods? They don't have the technology. They're not maybe going to reinvent that technology. You are giving them that technology so that it can be a seamless transition into plant-based production at the scales necessary we're talking about. Because if right now we're only 1/5 of 1%, it's not enough, people. It's not enough. If you want to avoid another pandemic, it's not enough. So
exactly.
Just thrilling to have you on. I have, and thank you for doing it. I have some exit questions for you. Just some of them are thoughtful questions, but others are kind of one-word answers and just lickety-split. Here we go. Okay, we've talked about it a little bit, but maybe even more in depth. What are your predictions for the future?
Oh, predictions for the future is I'm obviously, like others, certain this pandemic will change us, and I hopefully change us for the good. You know, as hard as it is, as people who care about the issue of animal agriculture and are really trying to do something about it, this is the time when, you know, we do need to talk about the issue of how animal agriculture impacts our lives, that we're always risking the issue of bird flu from factory farming, intensified animal agriculture of chickens. Even just last week, there was an outbreak of bird flu in a turkey flock right here in the United States. There have been 7 other bird flu outbreaks elsewhere out in the world just in the last 2 months. So while we're focused on COVID-19, you know, we have to remember that those threats are all around us. And so I really think that, you know, the future is not that far away from us, is what I think is my prediction, in that we need to start and even talk more about how we can truly transition our food system to a post-animal agriculture society or post-animal agriculture system, with all of the complexities and difficulties and, you know, perplexed, you know, connections that need to be made. You know, one of the reasons that we do the work we do at Rebellious with the engineering behind the scenes and actually develop new equipment is because we know it's just not that simple to just make more plant-based meat. It's never been that simple. We've been making, you know, the United States has been making plant-based meat since 1899, and it never got to the size of animal-based meat manufacturing. So the truth of the matter is, it's hard, it's complex. But I think COVID gives us the opportunity to talk about why it's just so necessary, and not necessary to prevent climate change in 10 years. It's probably, I mean, we really feel like within the next couple years, we want to have a really comprehensive system to deploy to replace chicken within just a few years. Because, you know, while climate change is something that we would like to really turn the tides on in 10 years, I don't, you know, this pandemic has shown all of us that we don't have 10 years to turn. We don't have 10 years. Yeah.
100% agreed. And to your point, it's in South Carolina that they just decimated 310,000 turkeys because they found bird flu in American bird flocks. And also in Germany, they're having an outbreak now, and so is Poland. And China cannot get swine flu under control. They've decimated, I've heard, up to 1 million. You know, it's hard to get the right numbers, you know, but enormous quantities of pigs decimated. Yep. So grown in torture and then decimated, so for no even reason at all. And it has forced pork prices to skyrocket. So then you have the issue of being able to actually feed 1.4 billion people. So as I started this show, you know, if you want a safer food supply, and that ultimately means a safer future, it's plant-based meats. That's where we have to be. And you are right, we do not have 10 years. I think 2025 is going to look nothing like today. I think it's creeping faster and faster. In this way, maybe we're learning something from this horrible pandemic that we're in now, COVID-19. I hope that would be the case. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
I think I wish I understood the degree to which the plant-based meat industry was and still is being held back by their production technology. I've been an engineer for a long time, and I think I would have started earlier if I truly understood the scope of that problem. The truth of the matter is very, very little plant-based meat production technology has ever been developed. There's obviously some fantastic work in the area of high moisture extrusion for the purposes of products like Gardein, which are just fantastic. But that could be one of 100 different ways we make plant-based meat, and instead it's kind of one of like 2 or 3. So I really wish we had known that 10 years ago. But now that we're here, I definitely am excited about being able to deploy our technology to make products faster, better, and cheaper than ever before.
It is such an exciting time. And I do think it's going to be this dance where there's this increase in consumer demand, either for health reasons or people perhaps are putting together for themselves that pandemics is caused from, eating and handling of meat. So there's that consumer perspective, but then there's also this business perspective. I think they're going to find once they get the right technology that plant-based foods make more money and they're cheaper to produce. They have better margins. It's what consumers want. It's a safer food supply, because if you are JBS, which I believe just shut down their, I apologize, Smithfield just shut down their South Dakota plant because they can't be producing with so many sick workers in small confined areas, so they've shut down their plant for who knows how long. Very bad for the bottom line. So you have a safer food supply. You don't have these kind of issues. If you have to cull 1 million pigs, or if you have to decimate 310,000 turkeys, not great for your bottom line. So I think that it's this dance between consumers want more, and ultimately I do think companies want out as well. They want a better bottom line. So and then we've got the climate crisis right on our shoulders, pushing us forward at a rate like never before. So you are vegan, of course. I am right on that. Yes. Yeah. Is there a moment in time when you just thought, I'm never going back? I could never eat meat again. And there was something that happened that was clicked for you.
Wow. That was a really long time ago. So I became a vegetarian as a teenager, and I really didn't want to eat meat as early as maybe 12 years old. I remember learning at the time about the Korean meat market, or the dog market, and people eating their dogs. And I remember a very specific moment in my head when I looked at my dog and was reading about this, and I was just like, people eat dogs? Well, people eat cows, people eat chickens. This is insane. So I never really wanted to eat meat, and then finally I was able to go vegetarian, and then I honestly, I was never a really good eater in the first place. I never seemed to stop for eating. So
not my issue. Good.
And so, but it wasn't really until I learned about where eggs and dairy came from, which, I mean, for people, for a lot of people, they don't even know that it's made from animals or even comes from animals. And I literally have friends in college who had no idea that cheese came from cows. And the truth, but what happened was I was very, very allergic to these products. I was very kind of sick. It's why I didn't want to eat, right? Because it made me sick all the time. And so when I went vegan for ethical animal reasons, I remember I went vegan on a Monday, and by Friday, it was the first time I could breathe since I was like 10.
Yes, so many people have asthma issues from eating dairy, and health issues from dairy in particular, but also meat. Meat has no fiber. This, FYI, folks, meat has no fiber. So you have this very long intestinal tract, and you have no fiber pushing it through, which is why meat stays in your system for 2 to 3 days. So a lot of people don't feel good on these products, but I love what you say, that it has been so marketed to falsely as this like fun, happy animal thing. A lot of kids don't even know that chicken nuggets are chicken.
Absolutely. And, my favorite comment from investors when I was raising venture capital money for this company is, what part of the chicken is the chicken nugget?
And?
It was kind of a nonsensical question because you don't know where to start, because of course chicken is a ground meat product that gets shaped into a nugget that looks natural. And then there's no chicken nugget on the chicken. There are legs and there are thighs and there are feet and there are heads, but there's no such thing as a chicken nugget.
Now I get the question. I thought they were asking, like, is it a fully blended product or not? But no, they actually thought there was a part of the chicken that was the nugget.
Yes, they did. And not just a few, quite a few thought that. So I don't think they invested because they didn't think I knew the answer. But sometimes you don't know where to start, But yeah, the chicken nugget is not a part of the chicken.
Thank you for clarifying. If you got anything out of this interview, it's that the chicken nugget is not part of the chicken. And I should say congratulations, because you did just have a big fundraising amount, I believe. That was the run.
We fundraised for our new equipment engineering effort that we are putting the pedal to the metal this year to get that done by next year. So we're really excited that within the next year we'll be able to not deploy, but actually functionally have all of our equipment up and running. So we're very excited about that.
So very exciting. And I know that you'll be back to keep us updated on all that and taste tests of those chicken nuggets. Do you think, because you're talking about people not making the connection maybe between what really a nugget is and what the animal is, and do you think people are making the connection now during COVID-19? I'm just curious about the people around you. You don't have to make a statement for the whole United States, but like, if you talk to people about what we're all going through, are they making the connection that it's because we're eating animals that these wet markets exist, and it's because of that situation that we have a pandemic?
I think to a certain degree, I understand that there's definitely wide support for ending wet markets, despite the fact that China announced this morning that several of them reopened right there in Wuhan. Obviously, we're all furious across the world about that. Mm-hmm. But, we have wet markets all over the United States as well. They're not just a Chinese phenomenon, certainly not just obviously right here right in the United States, in New York City, we've got wet markets. So it's something that definitely needs to happen. But, at the end of the day, I think that when we at Rebellious kind of think about, are we expecting people to make the connection? I have to refer that to my excellent colleagues in the advocacy world. I think that changing people's minds is a skill in and of itself. And our job, our focus, as you reminded me earlier in the discussion, is that our job is to make it possible, to make it easy, and to make it the easiest choice, even if you never make the connection. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's really important. The world is just so complex and there's so many layers to everything. As I used to work at Boeing, I was a Boeing engineer, and I spent, 9 hours a day at the Boeing factory trying to, make sure the wings got on correctly or get the drilling right or whatever. And then at lunchtime, I would be like, oh, shoot, what am I going to eat? And I'd have to walk, half a mile to some place that might have had French fries. And the truth of the matter is we all have so many things that we need to focus on. We can't necessarily always change everybody's mind. We should try. We should inform people. We should make sure that our government and our officials know the issues, and we should be advocates. But at the same time, at the end of the day, everybody just has to go get lunch at 12 p.m. and everybody's got to find dinner at, 5 or 6 p.m. And at that point is where Rebellious and other plant-based food industry, leaders come in, is that we want to make that the easiest choice possible to choose the solution. Because, I know people who, work every day trying to make lives better for animals, and they don't even have access to any non-animal based foods. And I've been with them through campaigns, and that's a really hard thing to face down. But the truth of the matter is we have to face the world as it is and change the systemic problems too. So I do think it changes people's minds, but what really allows them to change their minds is access to better solutions.
I love that you say this, because in a way we can't overthink everything, and we have so much on our plates already. Let's just get some delicious plant-based Rebellious chicken nuggets here and let's move on. Like, there's a limit to what we can do. Let's get some Rebellious chicken nuggets and move on.
You can also be advocates though.
And advocates, but you can't carry every torch all the time, which is why I'm so appreciative of what you do. Not just that you're taking on the largest section of the meat market by replacing it with plant-based chicken nuggets. That's for consumer packaged goods, so we're going to be able to buy them soon, and you're going to let us know when. But also in fast food situations and in quick serve situations, cafeterias, etc., around the country, by taking on that largest meat market or meat portion of the market, and by providing the technology so that other meat companies can do the same and switch their product lines over to plant-based meats through your technology, and other plant-based options too, not just the meat businesses, but the plant-based businesses, so that they can scale up. It is such a tremendous job. So thank you for doing the hard lifting and the thinking for us. Thank you, because of course you're a Boeing engineer. You said that, and I was like, well, of course you are. Of course you are. Okay, so let's say you're having a bad day. Is there something that you tell yourself to get yourself back on track? So I always like to say, nose to the grindstone, eyes to the sky.
Oh, to get me back on track. I get to sleep after this. If I get this done, I get to take a nap.
The reward, sleep.
The reward for me is getting to take a nap. Yeah, motivation sometimes has to come in really little bits. Sometimes when you're an entrepreneur and you're a founder of a company, obviously we encounter some really big hurdles. And I would say probably the number one motivator for me at Rebellious is the people I work with. My team is the best of the best. I mean, you wouldn't believe these people. They are just more dedicated, more talented, more thoughtful and out of the box creative thinkers than I've ever met in my whole entire life. So they are the ones that motivate me every day. So when I get up and I'm a little bit tired and maybe it's not nap time yet, I think to myself, well, I'm just so proud of my team and how hard that they are working, and I want to see their dream realized as well. So it's a shared dream with all of us, and so I never want to let them down, and I know they're working hard not to let each other down. So, and they're all motivated by the same issues that we all feel strongly about to climate change, human health, animal welfare, and pandemic-proof company to make it possible to move forward our whole industry. So, and just as a shout out, we are still hiring 2 engineers for our positions in West Seattle. So if anybody's interested, come and check out our website.
Well, it's funny because Tofurky is also hiring, and I see all these plant-based companies that are hiring right now. Some of them are part-time positions because of COVID and the demand for plant-based has been so large, but some of them are long-term positions because they're all growing at such incredible rates. So everybody, Rebellyous Foods, REBELLYOUS.com, if you are an engineer and want to get your hands on plant-based food production. We sure do need you because it does take a village, like you're saying. And I'll also say, why the heck did nap time ever go away? I mean, I loved it as a kid. Why can't I still love it now?
It did in my house.
That's great.
I just find my dog on my chest when I wake up, and I don't remember him getting there.
I want to thank Tom, Vincel, Michelle Alfano, Author Claude, The Source Hill, love that name, the 4th, Paige Parsons Roche. I know there's so many other people in here that I maybe am not getting to that I want to. I hope I'm trying to list off everybody. There, Heather was here, and thank you for that. I'm trying to see everyone's comments. Heather Hennick, and there's more. I can't scroll down to see everybody. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. And of course, I want to thank Christie. Before we go, I have one more last question, and it's truly a one-word question. And in fairness to the audience, you can't say chicken nuggets. So what is your go-to snack? Sorry, let me take that back. What's your go-to junk food?
Theo's chocolate.
Ooh, I've never heard of Theo's.
Oh, you got to check out Theo's right here in Seattle. Fair trade, vegan chocolate. It's the best of the best. And they roast it and buy it and make it right here in Seattle.
Theo's chocolate just got a shout out. Oh my gosh. Christie Lagally, I want to thank you, CEO and founder of Rebellious Foods, engineer extraordinaire, left Boeing to basically change the world so that we could take on the chicken industry and replace it with tasty, convenient, inexpensive, easy to get your hands on plant-based chicken and all the technology around it so that companies like Rebellious Foods, other plant-based companies, even meat companies can produce plant-based chicken at a tremendous scale to feed the world now more than ever in these pandemic crises, because I don't believe this will be the only one. I think everybody thinks this is a black swan and we're here for COVID-19 and we'll fix it and it'll go away. It will not. We're suffering from bird flus and swine flus, and there's lots going on. I don't think this will be the last we've seen of Mother Nature. So if we want a safer and more secure food supply system, and that actually means a safer, more secure future, it's plant-based foods. Christie Lagally, CEO of Rebellious Foods. Thanks for doing all you do. Thanks for being with me here today, and thanks for changing the world. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
Everybody, it's the Plant-Based Business Hour. I am weekdays live on Jane Unchained every day at 1 p.m. And you kind of got to get used to it. You probably knew me originally as awesome vegans interview series with the movers and shakers and celebs and influencers in the plant-based movement. That did not go away. I just wanted to step up the business aspect because of COVID-19. I want people to make that connection of how the business aspect works to getting us to a plant-based world. But my celebrity interviews are going to be coming back. So it'll probably be Plant-Based Business Hour 3 times a week, awesome vegans, celebrity interviews twice a week, but it's always plant-based. Planet focused, plant-based all the time. Right here, 1 o'clock on Jane Unchained. Christy, thank you for all you do. Everybody, this will be on the Awesome Vegans podcast very soon and on the Elizabeth Alfano Plant-Based Business page. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.